here's what I did this week on the farm. So, this week I started a new process for forming my beds. So, I am no longer forking and then digging by hand all of my beds. I was able to borrow a tilling implement from my neighbor Jim, and I was also able to borrow a BCS walk behind tractor from the farmers at Empowered Flowers. And along with the BCS, they also were able to lend me a rotary plow and a bed roller. So, my plan now is to make my initial pass with the tiller and then go through and use the rotary plow attachment on the BCS to dig soil from the path onto the bed, which is basically what I was, well, which is exactly what I was doing with my shovel. But this happens a lot faster and it forms a path at the same time as well. And once the soil's been mounded, I spread out a layer of composted cow manure and then I go over that bed with the bed roller. It's a precision depth roller. You can have it set at a more shallow depth so that you're not disturbing as much of the soil. So that's the no-till part of it, I guess. And then after that, I'll go through and measure out the beds and kind of either chisel away to make it narrower or flatten out the top even more to make it wider. And what's shocking is that in the amount of time it took me to make 11 beds this week, I would have only been able to do maybe two beds. And I am just shocked that that is the situation. And the later we get into the season, spending 6 hours per bed is not really going to be doable when I'm going to be having so much else to do. So, having these beds formed so quickly is already going to free up all of the hardening off space and it is going to allow me to get ahead of my direct seeding. Outside of that, I also did a lot of harvesting and washing and packing because I had an additional market I went to this week at Wilsonville on Thursday night. It was really fun. It was a more like active market. I didn't have as much produce to bring as I probably should have, but I sold pretty much all of it. And I probably could have sold more if I had more. I think I do prefer morning markets because it's a bit harder to go from like a full farm day and then do a 6 hour market as opposed to doing like a 6 hour market and then coming home to do farm projects, I guess. I'm excited to kind of expand my market going. At the start of my season, I kind of thought markets were going to be something I would be avoiding a little bit just because I don't know. I guess I haven't like loved the sales portion of jobs I've had before, but it's very different when it's like your business that you're selling. And I am really loving bartering. It's really fun. And I keep saying bartering, but it's really just like giving people things and then they also give you things. It's not like talking people. I feel like there's two different ideas of bartering and one is more aggressive and I'm not doing the aggressive one. And so my volunteer Elizabeth also came by again this week. She helped me with a lot of the harvesting and she also did a lot of the manure spreading. She spread manure over half the beds and I am very appreciative of that because I want to make sure I get the BCS back to Empowered Flowers as quickly as possible. I don't want to be hogging implements. She also got started with spreading cardboard and grass clippings on the pathways. I'll need to get a lot more grass clippings than I had. The amount I had only covered one path, so I've got to rake up the rest. I also was able to get some from my neighbor Sally, which I'm really appreciative of. And then that will help keep weeds down in the paths as well as kind of help retain moisture on the sides of the beds. And then once I'm able to get wood chips, either from Chip Drop or Elizabeth told me about PGE does a wood chip dropping situation. Once I get a ton of wood chips, I'll be able to really mulch the pathways. That'll help the beds retain water a bit better, especially when it's getting really hot. I lost a few to the heat already. I think because my watering hasn't been consistent enough. So I am going to work on that. And this week I also did some transplanting. I transplanted out some tomatoes my neighbor Jim had left over. They're a few weeks ahead of mine. So the exciting thing is I'll have tomatoes earlier at market and in my CSA boxes than I thought I would, which is a huge plus. And I also transplanted some scallions in the former spinach bed that did really poorly germination wise. And I also did a few scallions in between the tomatoes just to kind of utilize that space while the tomatoes are still small. and I planted zinnias in the rest of that bed as well. And on the 30 feet on either end of that bed, I also did a direct seeding of hawkeye. I also moved a lot of plants to the hardening off area. I moved my summer squash as well as my sage and snapdragons and my spinach and calendula. And from the sage and snapdragon tray, I potted up the lavender because they seemed a bit too small to transplant. But then once I potted them up, they loved it and they got a little bit bigger. And so I probably could have planted them, but now I'm going to give them a little bit of time. But those are going to be perfect in my new little plot that I just was able to dig this week. I'm so excited to have all this space to like immediately be planting into. I was really chasing my own heels a little bit with the hand digging and everything. So I'm really excited to just like do a ton of transplanting and seeding next week. So I'll see you then. Oh my God, wait. Okay. Also, at the farmer's market, there was a bear, a baby, not baby, maybe a teen bear just ran by the side and then it got shot. It was really sad. It was really sad. Um, so here's content corner. Okay, so this week I was listening to the band The Last Dinner Party, who I've been obsessed with since I first heard their song Nothing Matters. They are, I can't, I don't know, words don't describe it. They are euphoric to listen to. I am stunned by them. I saw them live this week. I'm not going to be going to like a concert every week. Don't worry. I physically cannot handle that. I saw them at Arlene Schitzer. I saw them at the concert hall in Portland, and it was an amazing venue. I love a smaller venue, and it was just beautiful. It was a beautiful show. They just have this like fantastic. I don't know. I can't even I don't know. I can't even describe it. It was fantastic. It was phenomenal. I felt changed. It was like yeah, I don't know, exquisite, really phenomenal. I If you get a chance to see them, I highly recommend it. It was an amazing show. I loved it. Yeah, every second of it was outstanding. And they did this thing where the different musicians in the band would sing different songs even though like the lead singer sings all the songs on the album, and I can't believe they all have the voices of angels. It's actually, I mean, it's shocking. It was shocking. I was obsessed with it the entire experience. I loved them. I loved it. 10 out of 10 would recommend. You should definitely see them live if you can. And I've also been watching Widow's Bay. I really think more people need to be watching it. It's like the perfect combination of like comedy and horror, and Chris Fleming is in it for a split second. So if that's not reason enough to watch it, then I don't know what is. Yeah, 10 out of 10, obsessed with it. It's outstanding. And all I can do is think about it. So I can't wait for the next episode. And you should be there too. I'll catch you back here next week for week 21. I also deadheaded my cosmos. Yeah.